Today I'm going to be talking about whether it's really worth using a UV filter. Hello, my name is Cade, and this is DSLRguide. So, UV filters, the big question is, should you use one, and basically why would you want to use one? So I'm just going to be talking about the advantages to having one, and the disadvantages to why you may not want to use one. The main reason you may want to use a UV filter is to protect the front element of your lens. The idea being that if a twig or something scratches the glass, then your lens underneath it will be fine. And that's basically the majority of the use for a UV filter. If you drop your lens, there have been cases where your UV filter smashes, but the lens underneath is fine. And again, there's no guarantee with that, but there's a possibility that your UV filter could essentially save a lens. And then the disadvantages are that the first one is that because it's extra glass going in front of the sensor, it can actually degrade the image. Now, this completely depends on how much money you decide to spend on the filter. So if you spend £10, which is pretty much the minimum, then basically it'll add a color cast, it will completely degrade the sharpness, and you'll probably get problems with flaring, probably get problems with chromatic aberration. All these kind of qualities of a bad lens will be transferred because it's low quality glass. They even make the cheap ones, I think, are plastic. So basically you're taking a really high quality lens, or even if it's a low quality one, and just putting a really cheap bit of glass or plastic in front of it, which kind of defeats the object, especially obviously if you have a really expensive lens, it doesn't make any sense to put a really cheap piece of glass in front of it. So that's one of the main reasons. So that means you have to spend a bit more on a UV filter. I think £70 is a good range where you can get a high quality one that won't have any of those problems, such as sharpness and flaring and stuff. They're actually quite good. And also you do get some problems with like wide angle lenses. Because it's coming out in front of the lens, you can get vignetting issues. So then you have to spend even more in getting a really thin one that doesn't, stick out much. Because you can imagine there's a certain level where you actually start to see the edges of the filter. So wide angle lenses and telephoto lenses are also not recommended to use UV filters. They basically highlight any of the discrepancies with the glass. That's what I'd say, and that's what I do. I have this filter for my 17 to 50, but then on my 70 to 200 I don't use a filter because with it being a telephoto lens, I'm probably better off in terms of image quality to stay without it. And it just comes down to being really careful. And so even though that's my most that's the lens that is worth the most, I don't have any protection on it, and I think that's okay because you just have to be careful. And then also a lens hood is actually a really good way of protecting the front element. Again, there's no guarantees, but if you have a giant lens hood on, then someone's less likely to, or someone or something is less likely to, come at it from the side and scratch it. And at the end of the day, your camera equipment, it is tools, and tools will eventually need replacing. And if you're making money off your equipment, then it's okay for it to wear out. It's okay for it to need replacing because it's earning you money. And then if you're doing it for a hobby, then you're getting enjoyment out of it. So it's not the worst thing in the world. You don't have to bubble wrap everything. You don't have to make sure everything is perfectly safe and protected all the time, because they are just tools. So that's my advice on UV filters. There's kind of a divide of people who use them, people who don't. But hopefully I've just been able to present some of those reasons for and reasons against. And yeah, that's it for this week. I'll see you next week.